Hi, how are things? Welcome to Feck TV's News Roundup. Today, Wednesday, I'm Alan Noonan. I'm joined by Noel Byrne today, and we're going to focus on a few of the main headlines of the day, starting with the news that the planned protest by Willie Fraser, leader of the Families Acting for Innocent Relatives, the planned protest in Dublin over the flag flying in Belfast has been reported in the papers as being postponed. However, it seems now that he's in consultation with guards and the planned protest will probably still go ahead, though the date is uncertain.
It's a funny one because late this afternoon they came out and said it was postponed, and literally within the last half hour, 40 minutes, they're now saying it may not be postponed. So we're up in the air as to where it is. 150 people were expected to come down to Dublin. As Alan said, you know, they were representing the Families Acting for Innocent Relatives. And Willie Fraser had said that he was in very constructive communications with Gardaí, which is an interesting turn of phrase to use. Yeah. And do you think it's going to go ahead, or do you think...
Well, I mean, dare I ask the question, what exactly are they doing in Dublin protesting a flag situation in Belfast? I mean, we are a separate country, so I don't quite understand the connection there. I'm
on your side with this. I was trying to get my head around it. I know people are like, they have a constitutional right to do so, like peaceful protest.
Oh, absolutely. I think you can protest wherever you want. Like, let them protest out in Belmullet, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
I don't mind.
But I don't know why. You made a good point about why you think they're coming to Dublin in terms of...
Yeah, this I think ties into the public perception both in Ireland, the UK and internationally with what's happened in Belfast and the negativity surrounding the riots there at the moment. And I think what they're actually trying to do is to paint Dublin in a similarly negative light and say that, you know, it's not just simply Belfast, that this problem isn't simply a Loyalist problem. There was an interesting discussion on at the weekend in which I heard one professor in Jordanstown talking about the fact that he believed that if David Irving, who was the former leader, he since passed away, of the Progressive Unionist Party and a representative for East Belfast working class Protestants, if he was still alive, that these protests wouldn't be happening because they would have had representation and he would have taken the people who were feeling this anger aside and sort of worked out some sort of deal. But because working class Protestants in East Belfast don't have any more representation and the DUP isn't felt to represent their interests, they feel that they have to sort of lash out. Personally, I don't think that that's a sufficient excuse. I think this is sort of being used by Loyalist thugs just to promote their own.
I'd echo the sentiments of the local businesses in Dublin who obviously were quite concerned with the fact that if this did go ahead, like, there's a chance a riot could break out like in 2006, which nobody wants to happen. And as you said, it's just going to show both cities in the country in a bad light, and it's just going to be a reason for thugs to come out and destroy the streets again.
Exactly, the same sort of people who are...
Charlie Bird could get hit again. I mean, nobody wants that.
Actually, I'm almost in favour of it. No, sorry, I'm not. I'm not in favour of any reporter getting assaulted. But, you know, you're going to see the same sort of hypocrisy that you saw with the foreign sports being played in Croke Park and a man outside protesting, saying we don't want foreign sports here, wearing a Celtic jersey. So, you know, I just think it's going to be... It's going to be a difficult situation to work out for both the guards and for this group that want to protest.
I definitely think it is, but I know Willie Fraser has said in his statement that, you know, they're going to come down here to discuss our many concerns around IRA collusion and many other issues. It was the phrase he used, so that's
rather interesting, considering the recent developments with the British state colluding with the death of a reporter up in the north. But we also have another picture that you came across, Noel, that was rather interesting.
Yeah, someone here in the office discovered this on Facebook today, our avid Facebookers here in the office. It's a picture that featured on BBC Newsline. They were filming last night inside Belfast City Hall. And they just took a photograph of, you know, the reporter giving his spiel. And in the image, you can clearly see a Union flag flying, well, not flying, but it's hanging inside the hall. But outside, obviously, the hoo-ha is there's no flag. Kind of a funny one.
So, in fact, the whole hypocrisy of the situation is kind of laid bare right there in a single photograph.
Yeah, exactly.
The flag is, in fact, flying inside in Belfast City Hall.
I know. Maybe if they just get all the protesters in, they'll calm down and be like, there's now. We're
exactly.
happy out.
File them in and have them have a look at the flag.
Yeah, you can just queue up and touch it or something. I don't know. Yeah, so that's Belfast. We're going to keep track of what's happening there if the protest is or is not going to go ahead in Dublin. Stay tuned to Feck TV and we'll let you know. Moving on. And of course, today is the second day of the Oireachtas Health Committee meeting to discuss what direction the government's going to go in terms of their abortion legislation. Yesterday it was the medical experts, today it's the legal experts. But interestingly, a draft abortion bill has surfaced. Solicitor and barrister Simon Mills has put together a bill he thinks could be used as maybe a basis for the government to work on. Now, I'm a bit sceptic of how much further it's going to go. Sinn Féin's Caoimhín Ó Caoláin has said it was a convincing first stab. But a couple of things that caught my attention with regards to it is, first of all, he's included the 12-year imprisonment aspect of it.
Which comes back from the 1861 Offences Against the State Act, whereby a woman who seeks termination of life can actually be prosecuted as a criminal. So he's kept that part.
He's kept that part, which I wasn't expecting. But then the second half is a strange one. He's included, reasons for abortion, suicide, inevitable miscarriage, non-viable pregnancies, and lethal fetal abnormalities. Of course, which was not referred to in any shape or form in the X case. So when I read it, I was kind of taken aback because it was a lot more open than I was expecting. You know, all the reports are kind of indicating that it's still going to be quite restrictive. But I was like, oh, it's allowing for one, suicide, which is the big question. But then I wasn't expecting, definitely not the fetal abnormalities, because so far all the reports have been indicating, no, you'd still have to go to London or Liverpool or wherever it may be to have an abortion if that was the case. It
seems to me, Noel, that this is the most disastrous effort to placate all sides. You have him keeping the idea that you should criminalise either the doctor and the patient who is seeking the abortion, and then you would also try and have abortion on demand for the rest of the population while sort of semi-limiting it. Yeah, I mean, once suicide is used as grounds for abortion, effectively you do have abortion on demand, which is how it effectively came in the United Kingdom in the first place. Yeah, now, that wasn't initially how it was envisioned.
Yeah, I agree and disagree with you on that one, in the sense that it has led to abortion on demand to a point, but I don't think women would feign suicide. Yeah, I don't think, anyway. If they have ridiculous morals. But I don't think the majority of women, I'd say 99% of women in Ireland, wouldn't feign it, I don't think anyway, to obtain an abortion.
But I guess my point would be is that this suicide bill is possibly the strangest way of working through it, because the way that they seem to be gravitating towards is that they're going to allow for some sort of legislation and protection where the doctors decide that there is going to be some sort of threat to the life of the mother. And I think most even anti-abortion advocates, pro-life, whatever they want to call themselves, would also agree with that sort of legislation. I think that the effort of the government and the Oireachtas Committee so far seems to be leaning towards some sort of compromise, which is probably the best of both worlds in a situation that is so fraught with...
I was disappointed with Simon Mills' exclusion of rape and incest, because I am of the belief that they should be included, but that's my own personal opinion. So yeah, we'll have to see in what shape or form the government are going to go. The
Oireachtas Committee continues tomorrow, and there are going to be hearings from both pro and anti advocates of either side in the following 2 days. So moving on to our third story, which is to deal with the 23-year-old woman who was raped and killed on the bus. The people who were arrested, the lawyer for those defendants, has come out and said, his name is Manohar Lal Sharma, I hope I pronounced that right, probably didn't. He came out and said that we will plead not guilty. We want this to go to trial. We are only hearing what the police are saying. This is manipulative evidence. It's all on the basis of hearsay and presumption. And he further added that this would never have happened to a respectable lady. Now,
yeah, I was absolutely dumbfounded for a solicitor or a lawyer who obviously is a well-educated man to come out and say that he's never heard of an incident of a respectable lady in India being raped. I mean, who says such a thing?
Yeah, really, it's almost the preposterous side notes to this case that are making people so furious. Yeah,
I mean, like, they're gathering steam on their own. Like, there's a whole, like, as you said, a footnote to this that's just like, it's astounding.
You actually have a comment there as well to lead into, but I just want to kind of go back to what the Manohar said, which is a hilarious name. Apologies for the Manohar, but it is. That his first comment that we will plead not guilty. I think he is right, actually, in that case. And I'm on the side of the people who are the defendants. I think that they need to go through the process of actually the legal process. As difficult as this case is, as horrific as it is, I think that the legal process there would make sense, and at least it allows tensions to cool.
You see, I agree with them and disagree with them. I obviously, as I've stated, disagree on the respectable lady aspect, but he's correct in the sense that he's saying, you know, they can plead not guilty because the police in India have made an absolute balls of the situation, to put it bluntly. They have interrogated the suspects without any legal representation, which is perfect grounds for appeal. And similar cases have been overturned as a result of, you know, using those grounds. And of course, every day we're hearing more and more about how the police are just mishandling, not just this case, but all sorts of rape cases. But as you said, there was another quote that came out today. A Hindu self-proclaimed God man has come out. His name is Asharam Bapu, if you want to Google him. He said the 23-year-old girl who died is as guilty as her rapist.
And what were the reasons that he gave for that, Noel?
I'm just going to read the entire quote because it's obviously coming from an extremely religious perspective. But he said, this tragedy would not have happened if she chanted God's name and fallen to the feet of the attackers. The error was not committed by just one side. The girl should have taken God's name and said, I consider you my brother. And to the other two, she should have said, brothers, I am helpless, you are my religious brothers. Then, he says, the misconduct wouldn't have happened.
I don't know. My only comment is, like, I think he's hoping that they didn't have some sort of incest fetish when she said that. It's absolutely crazy to hear that. The one thing I might take up on you there, that what you said, Noel, is from an extremely religious point of view, I would say an extremely crazy point of view. I don't think religion had anything to do with what he's saying.
You know,
he's hiding behind
religion,
this.
crazy, I don't know. I mean, you'd wonder, do people in that type of authority, well, he doesn't really have authority, but I suppose like of a religious standing, is he saying something like that purely for media attention?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, they really need to just think about what they're saying in such a public space, because, I mean, a life has been lost and several others, well, many more than that, have been lost as a result of incidents like this. And I mean, and to come out and say something like, you should start calling God's name and everything will be okay. Yeah. I mean, that's like me saying, if you're being stabbed downtown, you know, shout Jesus and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Noel. I think that it's an absolutely preposterous. I think we might just be seeing the Rush Limbaugh of India, I'm afraid. So, you know, in that regard, it's, well, you know, his own sense of self-importance is kind of highlighted by the fact that he thinks he's a god man. So, fairly... Yeah. I think the only hope that I have for this case is that the spotlight that's been thrown on it will help India repair its own approach, both legally with regards to the police, the way that they investigate rape, and hopefully it'll change the social attitudes towards rape and the way that they see victims in the cases of rape. Fingers
crossed, because I was one of those that was of the belief that India was quite a westernised country and, you know, something like this couldn't have happened, which is evidently not the case. Yeah. But just to go back on what the lawyer said and the 5 men that are going to be charged. Of course, there's a 6th person who's 17, so he's going to be tried differently, and he could face up to 3 years in a corrective facility. But one of the men, a few days after this story emerged back in December, he said he wanted to be hanged for his part in it. Now, he said he didn't rape the girl, but he did beat her up, and the friend as well. Now, he said he wanted to be hanged as a result, and 3 of the men now, it appears, are going to plead not guilty. Now, it's unclear whether or not he's one of those 3, because the other 2, we still don't know, first of all, if they've lawyers at all, and what way they're actually going to go. Presumably they're going to go not guilty like the other 3. But like, he's clearly admitted he done something wrong if he's, you know, making such an admission of guilt to say, I want to be hanged for it.
Yes.
I suppose what I'm getting at is, you know, and people have such contrasting views, is, do you think hanging is something that is a fair sentence here, or other people have said, you know, they should be castrated, or should they be just jailed, or what way do you think? Because I know, and I've said this openly on FeckTV.com as well, and I got contrasting opinions back. Some people agreed, some didn't agree with me. Like, I don't see the problem with hanging them,
That's interesting, Noel. I would disagree with actual state executions. I wouldn't be in favour of that. I'd rather actually some sort of, I would rather permanent incarceration. I think that would be as much torture as executing. I think shortening their lives would actually, like you said, I mean, like this person says, he wants to be hung. He doesn't want to deal with the lifetime of regret for doing what he did. And I think that
I can understand that side of it as well. Like, it's almost more torture because they have to live every day in solitude. Whereas
castration is a more difficult subject, because obviously when you have somebody in the prison system, they are at the mercy of the state, and the state can effectively do whatever they want to them. So the bodily integrity of the prisoners is important. Now, I actually do agree with the case of castration in the case of repeat sexual offenders. I would think that in that case you are protecting people.
Society, really.
You are protecting society, exactly.
No, I'd agree with you on that one. Okay, to move on, it's not all doom and gloom. We have, well, the story is half doom, but it's got a nice side to it, and it shows kind of the nice side to humanity, which, you know, is nice to highlight now and again, now that there's appears to be a bit left anyway. On Saturday, 96-year-old Greta Lily her house was burgled in Buncrana in Donegal, and she was attacked as well. She was punched in the ribs, and she's still in hospital. But today, a 48-year-old man from the locality was arrested, and he's being questioned at Buncrana Garda station. Now, a substantial amount of money was stolen from the house, and it turns out that she was saving the money because she wanted new windows. Which is just kind of, it pulls on the heartstrings. That's what she was saving for. She was 96 years old. There's a good chance she had single glazed windows, I'd imagine. But the townspeople, headed up by the local Sinn Féin councillor, they've opened an account in the credit union in Buncrana. It's going to be open for a month, and people can donate some money into it in the hope that they'll raise enough that she can kind of pretty much just replace the money that was stolen and get the new windows installed. I just think it's nice to see that people, you know, she's an elderly member of the community, and that they're kind of, obviously they're going to be on her side, but that, you know, they care enough that they're actually going to help her out. You know, they're going that one step further.
I totally disagree. I think that she's a sponger. She should be... No, of course not. Like, how could you disagree with a 94-year-old woman getting this sort of... what really kind of actually made me happy about the case wasn't so much that the donations, was the fact that they actually caught the person responsible. I'm delighted about that, because when she was actually robbed, she was asleep in bed, and he didn't find the money inside in the house, went into the bedroom, accosted her, and then punched her and demanded the money. So I'm delighted that he was arrested.
I know one little detail that I read today is that he gagged her with her own cardigan, which I thought was just disgusting. But anyways, the plus side to the story is, you know, the townspeople are behind her and fundraising for those windows. So fair dues, Donegal.
Have a look online and see if you can, if you want to donate anything for double glazed windows inside in Donegal. And thanks very much for joining us today.
Don't forget, we'll be on as well later tonight at 10 o'clock. We're going to be discussing the grants issue in terms of students and are they on the poverty line. We'll talk to you then.